This was our classwork, November 2nd. And so the topic of discussion was living arrangements. We compared different living situations. 2A and B, you did this on Tuesday. 2C, you did this on Thursday. We discussed advantages and disadvantages of different living situations and such. So you should be ready to use these phrases for our next lesson. And so some questions to think about. Why would you choose one of these situations instead of the other? What's so special about one of the situations, or what's typical about one of the situations? Number 3, which is easier and why is it easier, or which is worse, whatever you want to say. What kind of people are more likely to choose one over the other? So for number 4, for example, excuse me, young people typically don't have as much money as older people. So living situation like roommates, more often younger people will choose to have a roommate. Older people don't have to, maybe because they have their own house or they saved up money, right? Or maybe young people are in college, so they're living in dormitories, but older people don't usually live there. So this would be an example for question number 4. Describe typical, number 5, good and bad things about both situations. So you should be able to use words when you're also comparing. For example, this one is good, however, this one is bad. Or this one is better because, whereas, or however, this other one is better because, and maybe a different reason, okay? Describe typical good and bad things about both situations. So good thing about living in dormitories is I'm away from my mom and dad. I don't have to clean my room, for example. However, it's not a bad thing about living in the dormitories is that you do have to, or you could just say, a good thing about living in the dormitories is that you don't have to do chores at home. However, you also have to, you also don't get to eat mom or grandmother's cooking, or you have to eat the school lunch, dinner, yeah. Describe typical situations in these places. So number 6, like in the dormitories, typical situation is, I don't know, you live with another roommate. Typical is that you share a bathroom. Typical situation is that maybe you have a friend to chat with, whereas at home, you don't have that friend there. Or maybe you have an annoying brother, at home. So the situations are living in another country compared to living in Czech, renting compared to owning, living in the country versus living in the city, living away from home compared to living with mom and dad, what kind of problems can happen with roommates. So roommate, E is roommate situation compared to living alone. Describing living with an extended family, like living with grandparents compared to not living with grandparents. So what's special about, or good and bad about living with grandparents, for example. G, living with pets. We love our pets. What are some good and bad things about living with our pets? So you can talk about pets, yeah? Like on the one hand, owning a pet is lovely, it's great, it's comforting, you get to pet them and love them, and they rub you and they love you and this kind of thing, cuddling with your dog or cat. However, you also have to feed them and clean their poop and other things. So you have obligations or responsibilities along with your happy times. Okay? Siblings versus only child. When you're an only child, you get your own bedroom. You don't have to share things. Mom and dad buy things only for you. You don't have to be jealous of a sibling. On the other hand, you're lonely and you miss having the company of somebody to play with when you're growing up. You could also say, though, that it's good that you're living, that you don't have a brother or sister because nobody is annoying you and fighting with you and stealing your things, and you don't have to share, yeah? So they can sometimes be annoying. This would be your brothers and sisters, siblings. When I'm at home, I have to do chores. This is living at home compared to living in the dormitories. So this is D. A little c should be, you should stop the video and try this, obviously, on your own, or you're really cheating yourself. So little c here is going to be big A above, which would be this one, living in another country. Little d would be F. Little a would be, a little e would be big E. Little f would be, I'm sorry, where are we? B, C, D, here we are. Little f would be big H, little g is big B, and little h is big C. So please understand all these words. If you have any questions, obviously you can text me, message me on Google Classroom.